Well, hi, everybody. It's another Conversations With, and I am just delighted. I've got my new special girlfriend with me, and her name is Bonnie Wallace. And someday I'll tell you the real story of how Bonnie and I met. But leave it to say, we met at a Dunkin' Donuts about a week or so ago, and we had a great chat, and then I find out about these amazing things that this delightful lady does. And so I told her about it. I'd love to have you come on and talk about it and let our viewers hear all about it. So Bonnie, it's delightful to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be
I'm
here.
thrilled. But let's chat, because one of the things that Bonnie shared with me is that she works with people in hospice.
I do.
And one of the things she does is music therapy. And I said, music therapy? Well, as an old banjo player, my ears perked right up, and I said, I got to know all about this. So why don't you share with us how this all started? How did you even begin this?
Well, interesting question. When I was deciding to go to college a long time ago, I was originally going to major in something else, and a friend of mine said, oh, my daughter is a music therapy major. You should look into that. And lo and behold, I looked into it. It sounded great. But I had already applied to schools. So I started out my first year as a double major in music and psychology, and I was doing performance. When you do a music major, you have to perform, and so I was a singer, so I was singing opera, which is nice, but not necessarily functional to when you're sitting with a hospice patient. You know, singing opera is not always going to translate to everyone.
I have to tell you a great story about that. I owned a radio station in Killington, Vermont. And when I bought it, we were number 4 in a 4-station market. And the number 1 station was a station, and they were located in the Opera House in Rutland. And they used to say, WJJR in the Opera House, Rutland. And I really turned the station around, and we became number 1 and beat them. And we used to have a promo that ran, and it said, the opera isn't over till the fat lady sings. And you know, Z97 is now number 1. Anyway, I just had to tell you that.
Oh, that's
It
so
doesn't
funny.
mean anything. But,
no, but
now, here you are, you're saying,
so
I am finding out more things about this lady who now tells me she started out singing opera.
I did. I started out singing opera, and after a year, I realized, like, this wasn't going to be music therapy because it's really a specific program.
Oh, yeah.
So I transferred. I wound up going to Arizona State University. But I will say, for anybody who's interested in a career in music therapy, there is a program at Anna Maria College in Paxton.
Yep.
There is a program at Berkeley in Boston, and there's a master's level program at Lesley College in Boston. So there are 3 programs in New England, none of which, well, Berkeley didn't exist at that time, but the other 2 didn't really, and I wasn't at a master's level, and I wanted a big, fun school, so I wound up in Arizona.
Are you originally from Massachusetts?
Connecticut.
Connecticut, okay.
So I wound up in Arizona, and I did my music therapy degree. My first placement was actually in a forensic facility. So it was a maximum security forensic facility.
Wow.
The patients there were found not guilty by reason of insanity for crimes like arson, murder, multiple murders, mass murders.
So now here's this 22-year-old girl walking into
with my guitar.
With a guitar
and
slung
and
a smile, facing these hardened criminals.
It was fun, though. The person who ran the internship, he had another girl who worked with him, and we had a band. So the patients would come down. They were in a band with us, and you know, by the time they got to be in music therapy sessions, they had to gain privileges. So they had been there long enough to prove that they were safe to be in an environment. I mean, there were police officers everywhere, so it was very safe. It was a very safe environment. I never felt unsafe at any time ever. It was a good start. And then I started working with developmentally disabled adults. I worked with children who had autism. I started going to nursing homes and singing at different nursing homes. And the whole time, I knew that I wanted to work in hospice. However, at that time, there were no jobs for a hospice music therapist.
Right.
they were like, well, you can volunteer. And I was like, well, I have to pay my bills.
You gotta eat,
And I
yeah.
went to college for this, so
Yeah.
volunteering is kind of out of the question. So what I did do was I became a volunteer, but I promised myself that I would not do music therapy. I would just go and be with the hospice patients and learn about hospice.
Yeah.
So my first start in hospice was to just be a volunteer.
Right.
And it was a great experience because what I learned was the value of just being present
Yeah.
and not doing anything.
You know, I have to say this, and it just made me think of it. My father always, always, always said, there's nothing in the world that will beat experience. If you go through, it doesn't matter what it is, if you actually do it, it's amazing what you'll learn. You know, and so you did, you just mentioned
I did, and
how
I
much
just
you
learned by
learned.
just being there
Yep.
and soaking it up, and it was a great experience. And at that time, I kind of had a shift. I started having children, and I was home with my kids for
Yeah.
a while, and I started doing some fitness stuff. You know, I do yoga and dance, and I started doing that on the side while I was home with the kids during
Yeah.
the day. And that was kind of my break a couple nights a week. When my
Yeah.
husband would come home, I would
Yeah.
go out and do
Yeah.
that just to kind of get out of the house. And then a friend emailed me. My youngest two children are twins. They're twin boys, and they were about 2.5. And my friend emailed me, and she said, Bonnie, would you be interested in being a hospice music therapist? And I
Hello?
like fell over.
God does provide.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
When?
I spent 5 years trying to get a job and nobody would pay me, and all of
No.
a sudden I stay home with my kids
Yeah, and now
for
there it
5
is.
years, and all of a sudden
Yeah, there
they
it
want to
is.
give me a job. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
So I started with one hospice, and I wanted to expand, but they didn't have the funds. And then I happened to meet a nun who worked for a different hospice.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I really want to work 20 hours a week now that my kids are in
Yeah.
school and I have more time. And she says, all right, well, come to my hospice. So I went to that hospice, and then I grew that job to the point where it really needed somebody who could work 30 hours a week.
Yeah.
I didn't want to because I do too many other things. I found another music therapist. She took that job. I went back to doing my yoga and dancing stuff.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, one of my former coworkers says, Bonnie, come work for our hospice. And I said, okay, but I only want to work 10 hours a week. So now I am at my third hospice. All these jobs that just fell
Right.
into my lap. So it's been great, and I love it.
And so let's talk about that. So you walk in, and is it just one-on-one? Is there a group? How do you do it?
So I really vary it depending upon the needs of each person. The last hospice that I worked with, I got to go into a lot of homes, which was nice. We had a lot of people who were on hospice and they were in home, which is nice because that's probably the most comfortable
Yeah.
setting for anyone.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about going into someone's home, then you immediately get to meet the family. And when I would play the guitar, it would become a whole family experience. And the whole family was very involved.
Yeah, and that's great for the person.
Exactly. It was great. And I met so many wonderful families. I had,
Oh, I'm sure.
And then the nice thing is people would then, when somebody passes away, then the family would say, oh, will you come play at our memorial service?
Yeah.
And then I would know the songs that the person
Yeah.
loved, and I would get to play those songs at the memorial service, which was nice. Now I'm just going into nursing homes with this specific hospice. I'm in
Yeah.
nursing homes primarily. So way it works is if somebody really needs to be one-on-one, I'll just be with just that one person. But if they're more sociable, I'll try to create a little group where maybe it's them and another hospice patient, or them and 2 other nursing home residents, and it's everyone together, and maybe it's their family member and the nursing home, another resident's family member, and
Right.
it just really depends on where the person is at. If you ever, been with somebody as they go through a hospice journey, and in order to be on hospice, 2 doctors have to say that the person has 6 months or less to live.
Okay, so these are people who are really They're basically terminal.
They're terminal. So hospice is a free Medicare benefit to all U.S. residents. So this is important for people to know. You pay nothing to get hospice services. Zero. It's a free benefit to everybody.
And they don't take your house, and they don't take your car.
They take nothing.
Okay.
So the way it works is your medical doctor and then the hospice doctor both have to agree that it looks like you have 6 months or less to live. And then at that point, you can choose that you don't want to do any more invasive treatments, especially like for somebody who's been, undergoing cancer treatment or somebody who's been on dialysis, and they're just tired.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just like, you know what, it's too much on my body to keep up with this. And so they have the option to go on hospice, and then what happens is you get comfort measures. So you get comfort medications, you get your nurses, your aides to come provide care, you get social worker to come help you through the social aspects of the dying process, a chaplain who comes and helps you with the spiritual aspects of the dying process.
Wow, so there's really a whole...
And then some hospices, not every single one, have a music therapist who will then come and provide music and reflection and reminiscence. And all hospices have volunteers. So every hospice is required by Medicare law that they have volunteers. And so you'll get companionship, somebody to come, spend time with, so whoever your primary caretaker is. There'll be somebody that can relieve that person to just spend time, and it's a great benefit. Wow. It's one of those things I feel like the government's doing it right.
Yeah. That's good news.
Medicare's doing it right.
Well, but that's good because, I always tell people, nobody has ever said that a government knows how to run a government. They have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that they have failed miserably, okay? And that includes the cities, the towns, and the state and the federal government. What's really happened is government's become a business. The biggest single business in Massachusetts happens to be the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. They have more employees than anybody else. They take in more money than anybody else. They spend more money than anybody else. They have more pensions than anybody else. They're the biggest business in the Commonwealth, and they're still trying to run it like a government rather than try to run it like a business. Having said that,
I hear you, but I will say,
but I'm delighted to hear this is a great program.
And knock on wood that it stays that way.
Yeah, until someone tries to change it. Yeah,
I feel like it's really the best, benefit that we have. I mean, it's a great program, and to me, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, Bonnie, how can you do that? That seems so hard. Isn't it so sad,
Well, yeah, I was going to say, you get to know somebody for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then, unfortunately, they pass away, and then...
Right, and isn't it hard? And here's the thing I say, it's sad, and I'm comfortable with tears. I'm comfortable with crying. I'm comfortable with that. But really, it's joyful.
It is.
Because I get the gift of allowing someone to cry when they weren't maybe able to cry. No. I play that one song and then I see the tear just come right down the cheek like this. And I get the gift of when they're uncomfortable and they're can't get comfortable in their seat, I play music and they fall asleep. And I see them get comfortable and relax and be so peaceful.
There's the old saying, laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and you cry alone. You're in a situation where they're not crying alone.
No.
You're with them.
I'm there.
And not only that, depending on what you believe spiritually, death is the greatest day of your life.
I hope so.
You're going to heaven. This is what it's all about. Depending on your belief, that's it, babe. You're on your way.
And to be able to make that peaceful for someone and their family members to be able to create an environment where they feel like they were able to listen to that one song that had so much meaning, to recapitulate those precious moments of their life and feel like they're moving on with purpose, with meaning.
Well, not only that, but you really provide them with the opportunity to really go rest in peace.
Exactly.
And what a great thing.
It's a gift.
And obviously
the
you love
joy.
it. Obviously you enjoy it.
I do. I love it. I feel always called back into it. Like I said, every time I've
Yeah.
left one hospice, I've come back into
Something else
another
comes along,
one.
yeah.
So, it's something that it's definitely a calling. And I will say, of all the coworkers I've had, and I've had only wonderful, amazing coworkers, because as you can imagine, the people who choose to work in hospice are generally just
Incredibly
people with
dedicated.
big hearts,
Yep.
loving people, and of all the coworkers I've had, it's just everyone.
It's amazing when you truly see people who really dedicate their lives, I mean, really, to take care of these souls, knowing the ultimate outcome
Right.
in advance.
I
you
will
know?
say this, though, and this is one little interesting fact that a lot of people don't know, and people are surprised to find out, is that more often than you would realize, people graduate hospice and come off because they get better.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yes, it
and
does.
a lot of times people are on a ton of medications, and then they decide, this is too much. The doctor's like, you got 6 months left here. So they come off all these medications, and then lo and behold, they start to perk up, they get better, and the doctor's like, you're going to live. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to be 6 months. So they end up coming off of hospice,
Yeah.
they graduate, and they end up living for much longer.
Yeah.
And then eventually they'll come
Yeah.
back on again, but it's surprising. It happens quite often.
Well, the most amazing thing, and I have a great physician who is at Mass General, and he teaches at Harvard Medical School 3 days a week. Just finished his 7th book. Testified before Congress. Is a consultant to the Mayo Clinic. He's really there. And he says that there is no pill in the world, there is no medication in the world that beats you gotta wanna. And he says he says, as long as you stay active, and I tell patients this, stay active. Don't give it away. Do things, go things, get involved. Even if you're retired, then go volunteer someplace. Get a job, and even if it's a volunteer's job, and stay active and stay busy, it will prolong your life. And he's right.
Yeah.
And he said, I've seen it happen. Well, I've seen them come in here as almost a basket case, and I just work with them and tell them, get involved. And he said, I even called up and got jobs for people, volunteer jobs. Well, I can't find anything. I'll find you something.
You can go volunteer for hospice.
Yeah,
There's
that's right.
over 70 hospices in central Massachusetts. You've got a large choice. It's a very competitive market.
Yeah.
You can interview with 5 different hospices and find
Yeah.
your favorite volunteer
Yeah.
place
Well,
to
see, there you go.
volunteer.
And it's true. I mean, people can really, but to your point, it's amazing to watch those folks who do it, either for a living and a volunteer. The love and the care and the dedication that it takes for them to do, and how hard they work.
They do. And the nurses especially, the nurses are on call all day, all night. I mean, they get calls, as you
Yeah.
can imagine, at some of the oddest
Oh, yeah.
times, because they've got to go run to a situation and be
Yeah.
there. So they are truly angels among us.
Oh, yeah.
Hospice nurses. And some of the most wonderful people I've been able to meet. I feel so
Right.
blessed and lucky to have had such wonderful coworkers.
Right.
And
No, but it's just intriguing. I hope you folks are enjoying this as much as I am, because this lady is really somebody special, and we're gonna have her do a couple of songs for you in a minute, but it's truly an intriguing. I mean, I had never in my whole life heard of music therapy until I met you at the donut store,
yeah.
and you had a jacket on, and that's how I asked you. You work at a hospital, and then I get the story, and not only that, but Bonnie and I are talking. Bonnie does other things, and she does yoga, and she and I are going to be talking about doing a series of programs for you folks that'll be on maybe once a month, where we'll do some yoga, and she'll give you some ideas, things that you can actually do, and it goes back to my pal Dr. Gorel. We'll keep you active, and we'll keep you busy.
Yes. Yep. Through my music therapy training and through my training in dance fitness and yoga, I've created a very basic movement sequence that everyone, all levels can do. It's called Renew Body Sequence. And especially for people who've been through, life-changing events, whether you've had an accident or an illness or an injury, and you're trying to rehab your body to be able to function, move with the same mobility that you had previously. This sequencing of yoga moves, it's very intentional, and it helps sort of restore the body to its natural rhythm. And like I said, it's simple, and we can do in different ways, so we'll kind of figure out what we have coming up for you, but I'm excited to share it.
Good. That'll be great, and we'll be doing that. So we got a few minutes left. Let's do a couple of songs so folks can get an idea of. Do you have certain songs that are favorites or special?
Yeah. So I have a few songs, and these songs are ones that I really like to play because they're universal. All ages enjoy them, and one thing I've noticed, I consider myself young at heart. I listen to the radio. I like to be up with current music and everything like that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing it. But I will say there's something about the older songs that are so innocent and so beautiful and so uplifting. There's just no negativity in it.
I got to tell you a story. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. I started in radio. I was in radio for 65 years. And at 17 years old, I was a little disc jockey. And I used to play back songs in the 50s, okay? And not only that, but I can go back into the 40s where I was growing, because I just loved it. As a little kid, always wanted to be in, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be in radio. Because that's all we had when I was a kid growing up. We didn't have TV.
Thank God, because now it's like a million different screens that my
and we
kids
didn't even
are
have
on.
dials on our telephones
You got
either.
the TV, the phone, the iPad, and the
But all we
this
had
and
was
that.
radio, and we used to listen all the time. And we had guys like Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Dennis Day, great, great entertainers. And some of the songs back then were just great, 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 great songs. And I'm looking down at one, and I look at Somewhere Over the Rain, if anybody, Judy Garland, okay? And when she sang that as a kid, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. But I mean, the music back then, to your point, Bonnie, was absolutely special. It was kind, it was caring, and I just noted with a little sadness that Fats Domino passed away.
Oh.
And when he started R&B, and his first song, and we used to play it, was I Found My Thrill on Blueberry Hill. And I mean, that was when he first started, and I met him, because back then they used to come to the radio stations and they'd to promote their records, and in those days we had 78s, the big ones, and then we went to 45s, and that was wow. But anyway, I digress. Yeah.
I digress. I was actually voted by my 5th grade class most likely to digress. So how about
Really?
that?
Great. Great.
My teacher used to always say, Bonnie, you're digressing.
Yeah.
Get back to the point. Well, so this is a combination actually of Over the Rainbow. I put these two songs together, but they're definitely happy songs. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright blessed day, dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Skies are blue and the that you dare to dream really do come true. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll never know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Unbelievable. You know, all I could think of was Louis Armstrong.
Yeah.
That was a great, and what a great song, a great record. Mm-hmm. You know what I also thought of when we were thinking that? Remember Frankie Lane's I Believe?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, that was another, we sang that as our graduation song for high school.
Oh.
But what?
That's a popular one. Elvis did a version of that, too.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
just with our hospice chaplain, and he has, our chaplain actually, when he goes to visit the patients, he brings an old record player with him.
Oh, wow.
And he has the actual LPs, and he plays the records, and he has this Elvis gospel album with that on it.
Wow. Oh, yeah, I have a great friend of mine who worked for Capitol Records. I have a whole, they're on LP, big LPs. Every song the Beatles did.
Oh, wow.
And it's this four LPs, and it was a special anniversary thing they did. You know, it was, they did it to sell records. You know, but I got it as a favor. He gave me a set. But you sing those songs, and I kept thinking back in the 50s when I was actually on the radio playing. I mean, I ended up doing news and sports. That's what I ended up doing. But every once in a while, I'd go in on a Saturday or Sunday, and when someone was out sick or something, I'd go in and do an air shift. But I'm thinking of people back then. You know. Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet. I mean, there was so many great, and Frankie Lane, and of course Al Hibbler. You know, Unchained Melody. I mean, there's so many great, and those songs were really versus today, where there are a bunch of, you know, I hate to be mean, but you know, first of all, you can hardly understand the words. You know, number one, and number two, they swear in it and everything else.
There's a lot of cursing, and I have to say, like, I don't know. I try to stay open-minded. Sometimes I get in that mood where I'm like, oh, I like this hard music, but there's something about the purity of these songs.
Oh.
Where it's so pure and it's so uplifting.
Yeah.
And I have one other one here that I love to play. I know we only have a couple minutes left, but this is from actually 1943, Rodgers and Hammerstein from the musical Oklahoma.
Great show.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the cattle are standing like statues. All the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by. And a little brown maverick is winking her eye. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the sounds of the earth are like music. All the sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is so busy it don't miss a tree. And an old weeping willow is laughing at me. Oh, what a beautiful morning. a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way.
Fantastic. Bonnie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dick.
There you are, folks, and other conversations with. Unbelievable.